Think it's working. I think we got it this morning. I think. Hang on a second. Just let me do this. It's happening a lot. It's happening a lot. Very excited. Okay, good morning. Good morning here where I am right now. Probably, maybe not where you are, but cheers. So I heard from Charles Cox this morning. They're down in the path of the new event storm coming at them from the Gulf of Mexico. Passing Texas on its way east. And he said, so with any luck, I'll be able to watch it tonight, but today we're going to be a little busy. So all of us, Charles, are thinking good, safe thoughts, find the high ground, find cover. Hugs to you and Kat and your cats. Just be safe. Just be safe. Keep only the things you absolutely need, and everything else will fall into place, right? So having said that, I have friends out west where it's hotter than is even remotely reasonable. I have people in the fire areas in Western Canada. So everybody, we're kind of hitting these marks that I want to talk about today, and we're hitting them for a lot of reasons. And we're not well. Oh, good morning. Good morning, Eddie. So the topic today is that moment when somebody says or does somebody, and all of a sudden, you know that you're full, you're done. Yeah, you got no more room for any of it. And the thing is that typically it's like that old expression, the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's just a straw. Yeah, but it's the ultimate straw because of all the other previous straw. And we don't, we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not seeing it coming. We're not assuming that it's probably going to come if we keep doing this and we keep doing that. We just seem to think that some part of us is channeling the ever ready bunny, and it ain't so. It ain't so. I read a couple of things that I want to share with you before I get into the story part of this and the solution part of this. I'm a big fan of Seth Godin. I subscribe to his emails. I get one every day, and the man is prolific. This is episode 287 for me, and he sends an email every day, and he has for years. And I don't know how he does it. I don't know where he finds the inspiration. He's certainly an inspiration to me. Anyway, he was talking about something that we do, and that is we lose consciousness. And he said the interesting thing is when you watch television, people lose consciousness. It's a big drama. They're 1 minute they're here, and the next minute there's a great kerfluffle, and they're passed out on the floor. And he said, well, that's one kind of unconsciousness, and the other kind that is more insidious, that we are seeing more and more, and we're not really, I think, either because we're unconscious and we're not noticing, or we don't really understand the signals that we're getting. And this is people who are just kind of on autopilot, more and more and more, when they really shouldn't be. They haven't, that thing I talk about. You're driving on the highway, and if you're on the highway for miles and miles and miles and miles, you're not consciously counting the dashes of paint on the highway. You're not alert every second. It is a simple repeatable function. And so your subconscious brain takes over, and your thinking brain, the one that goes away, therefore you lose consciousness, it gets to go away and think about pork chops for supper. And when I used to commute up and down the highway, I used that opportunity to run lines to practice my script for a show that I was going to be appearing in. Because there you are for an hour by yourself in the car, nobody around you. You can just run lines, repeat them over and over to get them anchored in your head. Good morning, Freddie. It's nice to see you. And that habit that we are able to tap into, this massive part of our functioning, I don't know, kind of like a maintenance engineer, really, that brain, it takes care of all the small stuff. It's like keeping us alive, and we can focus on the big stuff like world peace. um, it allows us to do new things. The subconscious brain on autopilot, doing the functioning tasks that are repeatable, that frees up our thinking brain to do the new original things, to look at issues and situations and puzzles and come up with solutions, to think outside of the box, to bring to the equation the human element that no AI can possibly ever, because we are originators, and artificial intelligence, at least at this point in its evolution, is an aggregator of pre-existing information. It gathers stuff that is already there. It can put things together in a fresh order, but that doesn't make it original. It just means they've moved the pieces around on the board. And our ability to look at a situation and say, I wonder what happens when I do this, is how we're special. And when we aren't here to do that, we don't do anything new. And worst of all, is that we don't have the capacity when the thinking brain is not turned on, when it's off thinking pork chops, we don't have the capacity to take comfort in the people we're with. We don't have the ability to hear them in the right now. We don't have the tools, the skills, because that brain is pre-verbal. That brain can see signals, nonverbal signals that indicate danger or safety, but not much in between that, because that's its job, danger or safety. That's it, really. It doesn't care if you're fond of apricot, either as a fruit or as a color. It doesn't. What am I supposed to do with that? It has no use for that kind of information. So the subtle nuances and the finer things that make us us just lie dormant. They don't get used, and they don't get polished, and they don't get practiced, and we lose touch with each other. And part of our feelings, our emotional side, that is also the subconscious, can sense that something is missing, but it doesn't know how to go back and get it. It doesn't know where it went. It continues to function, but with fewer resources, with fewer deep, happy, resting breaths, because we're not connecting to each other, and we're not fueling each other's energy. We're not engaging creatively and supportively. And one of the ways that you can tell that the person you're with has kind of tuned you out is when you say something and the answer they give you is so close, really, so close, but not enough. My mother used to signal it all the time, and I channeled that habit of hers when I was playing mom on You Can't Do It on Television. I could, I would walk in and I would say something that I thought was relatively important, and she would say, "Oh, well, that's nice, dear," and her voice would have kind of a half tone in it. "Well, that's nice, dear," as opposed to, "Oh, that's nice, dear." I mean, there's a flatness when she's only partly there. And I would sometimes test it. I would realize I would say something and I'd get that, and so I would say, "There's an elephant in the backyard." And she said, "Oh, really? Well, that's what we must tell your father when he gets home." Like, she's not. I'd walk away. And, only child, I'm in the house, the only other person in the house who's physically there, but clearly that's pretty much the end of it, is a very lonely time. I mean, there's times when you kind of wait, "Mom, could we talk?" Well, we talk all the time. No, no, no. I say something, you make noises, but one of us isn't actually part of the conversation. And I was reminded of it yesterday. I already knew that this was what I wanted to talk about today, but I was reminded of it yesterday. I had lunch with a really, really lovely, lovely friend. And we had the most interesting conversation. It was fascinating because we're similar in some ways, and then we're so vastly different in others that I I can't wait to get her take on something, because there we both are looking at the same thing. And when I say it and she responds to it, and I'm thinking, wow, uh, okay, interesting. Not crazy. I mean, really valid, really interesting. And not something that would have occurred to me, because what where she's looking at the world is not where I'm looking at the world. And so it was endlessly fascinating, because I would then say, okay, so what what would your takeaway be in this scenario? And I would invent something, and then she would tell me. And a couple of times I would think, yeah, yeah, that's what I would do. And then other times I think, oh my God, wow. Well, that's cool. How did you do that? Like, where was the? And so we were walking each other through our respective thinking processes. And the reason it was so interesting is that we so seldom have that conversation, unless we find ourselves in that Brooklyn biker gang situation. Are you listening to you? what what are you talking about? Um, and so I saw Seth Godin's post about consciousness and unconsciousness, and I had my conversation with my friend yesterday. And I've been in conversation with my friend Eddie, who has just gone through a job upheaval. And as the breaking wave crested, the light that had dimly flickered in the background for a while suddenly came on, and and all of a sudden, in the clear bright light, Eddie could see that it was in fact an oncoming train. And not a whole lot of time to say, gotta go. And we get blindsided a lot, partly because we're not present. And the trick, the danger, the wrinkle in it is that we don't consciously opt out. The subconscious takes over without a handoff. It's not like the ceremony of the presenting of the guards, where the two battalions come and they hoorah, thing and leave. It's not like that. It's just a subtle gone. And by the way, equally suddenly, with no advanced warning, subconscious brain hands the reins back, and the conscious brain goes, "Ugh," which is what happens on the highway. Happened to me, actually, driving us home from lunch yesterday, when I realized I was about to miss my turn, and I said, hang on. The utmost damned astonishment, 3, 2, 1, and I you know did what I could and made the turn, and horns went off. I mean, we were fine. I had checked my mirrors, but it was kind of a last minute thing. Friend, what was that? If we're not present, we don't get to experience the full flavor. It's like when you have a cold and you think, oh, you know what I really want? I really want chicken soup, because at last I can taste something. I can taste the salt. I can taste or I really want hot sweet tea, or I want something with cinnamon in it, because I can't. I need that taste, that to break through the sort of the fug of the cold. And we're living like that. And so, in part of my conversation yesterday, and actually the day before, and then last night with my client, my gosh, the conversation last night with my client, um, people who don't feel like there's any urgency, I've just got a piece of hair that's trying to make friends with my eyelash. People who don't feel any sense of urgency, They weren't raised in a terrorizing time. Their bases have been covered. They've been protected. They are blessed by having a close and supportive tribe and external tribe. Full flavor. Yes, full flavor, definitely, Freddie. And if they're not hungry and they're not cold and they're not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, and we take care of everything for someone, we're not training them to be ready. We're not training them to know where their best game is. We're not training them, quick conversation this morning with Charles, who's prepping for a possible disaster, maybe financial, but mostly weather-related disaster today. Do you have a safety kit? My client last night, she's been doing an event at a fair, an antique fair, and she left early and got a phone call that a weather system had touched down, like almost a tornado, and a whole bunch of places at the fair had been hit, and her tent had collapsed. And, and I said, "Oh, and you didn't know that it folded that way?" And she said, "No, a lot of stuff was saved, a lot of stuff was blown around." And I said, "Okay, so note to self: you need to get a good solid tub that's waterproof, and you need to put your good stuff in it, the essential stuff, and you need to bring it with you when you leave at night, and bring it back in the morning. And you also need to put it someplace safe when you go for a bathroom break or a meal break or a visit the other booths break. You need to plan ahead, because clearly there's these unexpected things, and we didn't think about that when we were talking about how you were going to populate your booth, your tent." And she said, "Yeah, lesson learned." She had enough backup and enough connection to the people around her that people were looking after each other. But if she'd been alone, it could have been overwhelming. In the process of us working together, I have been giving her a lot of preemptive coping tools, a lot of plan ahead for this way. So she was more ready and more equipped than she might otherwise have been. And we were talking about that. And I said, what do you call it? And she said, "Oh, peace of mind." Peace of mind. I don't necessarily know what it is that I'm going to do, but I know that with the talks we've had and the lessons that we've worked through, and the 1, 2, 3 steps, she said, "I know I'm going to be ready because I've been working out." and she said, I know that I wasn't ready. Looking back, I know how unready I was. And when disasters hit me, boy, they hit me. And now I still have to ride the waves, but it's less. Yes, you're right, Eddie. If you're not present, you miss the good and the bad. And the thing is that you miss the opportunity to be skilled at either one. And by the way, Eddie, hope for this, expect that. Those are victim statements. That's not you in charge. That's you reacting. Remember that. You don't hope for, you plan for. You don't expect, you ready. Think about that. It's very important. Where you place your brain, where you place your power is what you do, and is what the universe brings to you. So keep that in mind, because right now you are in that place where you haven't had to be ready, be in advance of the train for a while. And now you are, now you do. And now the steps that I'm sharing with you, you have to first of all be there here. So no, not hope, plan, not expect, preempt. Very important. You just rephrased it. That's typed it, and then you went, "Oh, here she comes." So the conversation today, when you hit your wall. Oh, and by the way, if you're on Facebook, the image that I posted was a clip. Well, I guess it was a still that Roger took of an episode of a sketch on You Can't Do That on Television, where Adam Reed was in a wrestling ring with the masked, what was he? The masked Mauler, Marauder, whatever it was, and he kept taking the masks off and the masks off, and when he pulled the final mask off, it was me. But I'm lying flat on my back on the floor of this supposed wrestling ring, looking completely blank. When I saw the picture, I thought, yes, that's it. That's the look for today. When you got nothing because you got too much of everything and you're just there. And somebody says, oh, have you ever tried liver and lima beans muffins? And you don't even have the energy to say or do anything. You just are, and you can't even phrase the emotional verbal response to it, because that was the straw. And you think, what? So the conversation that I had yesterday, all of this silliness aside, the conversation that I had yesterday with this really, really smart, interesting, lovely woman was, where is everybody? Where are they? I don't mean the people showing up who's saying, hi, and you. I don't mean those people. I mean, where's everybody who used to show up? Even if all they did was, sleepwalk through their paces. Where are they? And when they're not doing their job, when you go to the store and you realize that it is only half populated with the number of employees that they reasonably need to run the place, my question is not, okay, so where are the people who used to be working, as much as what are they doing instead? Because when they were here, they were trading their time and effort for the currency they needed to be able to pay their bills. So if they're not doing that here, where are they doing it? And if they were barely showing up here, how effective are they wherever they are now? Because unless it was that particular job and that particular boss and that particular team or these particular customers, and all of a sudden, as soon as you leave, everything is wonderful. If it is their loss of energy, drive, ambition, care, if they have no hunger or curiosity, well, then they're going to be doing the same level of just about nearly almost nothingness anywhere, because everywhere you go, there you are. So what are they doing? Where is everybody? What are they doing instead? Because I can't imagine the answer is nothing. It can't be, right? So wherever this place is, sorry, Freddie. Wherever this place is that people have drifted off to, like the stuff on the edge of a pond that ends up stuck in the weeds in the shallows, that's got to be a swell kind of life, right? That's got to be, why get up? I'm up. Might as well go back to bed. I got nothing to do. Why go to school? I don't like it. I'm not curious to know anything new. I don't feel the need to be more equipped, because in this present moment, I'm safe and warm and dry. Therefore, all my needs are met. It hasn't yet occurred to my barely awake thinking brain that if I eat all the food that's currently in the fridge, there will be no food in the fridge. That doesn't seem to have crossed my, but I don't have to worry about that because there's a fridge fairy. It's the most amazing thing. If I had any energy at all, I'd be excited about it. But every time you go to the fridge fairy has refilled it. Incredible. And I don't think we're doing people any favors when we're letting them skate. And I also don't think we're doing ourselves any favors. And now we're talking about me here. When my urge to compensate for people who haven't shown up gives me the opportunity to do my job and their job because I can. And because it seems in the moment easier for me to just do all of it than try and find the people willing to show up and do it and train them. In the time it would take to do that, I could have just done it. So I'll just do it. And then I just keep doing it. And then what happens is they don't learn anything. They don't take over their responsibilities. They don't benefit from participating. They don't get to ride in the boat with me. And I'm exhausted. How did that work exactly? Which part of I'm the only eye in the team is working for me? And I think we're either on one side, we're tap dancing, step dancing, the middle of the path, or we're on the other side. We're exhausted and we can't get up. We're doing our best to keep up because we're doing our best to keep up while we do all their stuff because they're too exhausted to get up. And then there's people who, well, why do I need to get up? I don't need to get up. Somebody else is already up. While you're up, get me a coffee. So there's something fundamentally, there's something innately wrong with the communication process and the training process and the giving and taking, practicing process. And whether it's generational, part of the conversation yesterday, whether it's cultural, whether it's social, whether it's seasonal, whatever it is, we're not looking at the big picture. We're really not looking at the big picture. So this is my hack today, because the title of this video is When Just Try This Is Our Bridge Too Far. I always talk about the simple win. I always say fewer steps, easy access. I can see my house from here. I can see my end result from this step here. So it's not convoluted and that. It's I got to do this and this and this. Sometimes just try this is the bridge too far, is the straw. And I'm not talking about the people who, hi, can I just grab a second? Not that. I'm talking about the person who legitimately says, you know what, you can just do this. And we're not listening. That's the root cause. We're not listening. Why aren't we listening? We're not here. Why else aren't we listening? We're too focused on us. We've forgotten that it's always a give and take, equal and opposite, team reaction, you, me, you, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If I, in all sincerity, say to somebody, oh my God, I have a simple hack, you have to try it. And I'm not looking in their eyes, and I'm not paying attention to the set of their mouth and the musculature in their faces and their shoulders. And I'm not recognizing that they are done. Then my bouncy is about to put them over the edge, even before I tell them what a fabulous idea I have. I'm not showing up properly for the person I'm in conversation with. And I'm guilty of it a lot. I'm guilty of it a lot. And I feel badly when I realize that I've done it. And it kind of doesn't matter that my heart is in the right place. It's not that I'm talking to hear myself talk. It's that I want to give them a tool, an insight, uh, an expectation, an attaboy, attagirl, to encourage them to say, you know what? All right. And I'm so keen to get them there, to give them those steps, to show them where it is, that I can miss the signs. I can miss the signals. And I feel terrible when I realize I've done it. And you can't get it back because I'm so sorry. They're saying, no, it's fine. Except it's not fine. They're exhausted. So my homework is to pay better attention, pay closer attention, pay finer, more focused attention to know when the readiness has passed its stale date. When I say to somebody, may I show you how to breathe? Would you be, takes 15 seconds. They don't want to say no to me because they love me. They say, yeah, okay. And then I have to scale back and figure out how to do something with them that just kind of piques their curiosity. Just so as soon as I hear them say, so what is it I'm supposed to? Now they're curious, now they're interested, now they're back. Briefly, but they're back. Give them the shortened version. Do it for them, with them. Find a silly ass thing to say and do to make them laugh, because that re-energizes you. And thank them. And I'm trying more to do that. Be more aware, be more present, be more engaged in where they are, so that we are dancing this couple's dance in sync with each other. So the first thing we can do has to begin with us. You know, we have this human we were born to take care of. First thing we have to do is listen to our signals. When we're tired, we have to take a moment. If we literally can't stop because of something, we're halfway through, we're crossing an intersection, okay, and I just have to get there, okay, but take a breath, let it out as you take those final steps, and then stop. All the other stuff that isn't immediate, it can wait. If a hurricane hit the building, it would wait, and you're not the hurricane hunter. That's the first thing. We have to listen to ourselves first. If we listen to ourselves first and we practice that, Marvin the Tap Dancing Horse, yeah. And when we see the result and we say, what did I do? What did I do there? Oh, that's right. I did this. Okay. Then whatever this is, that's the thing. Get a weapon of mass construction and write down what you did. Write it down on something, because we won't remember. Keep Post-it notes. Post-it notes. Write it down. Look at me. The hell does that mean? What we want to do is create the new habit of taking care, taking and giving care. The new habit is action, pause, care, pause, action. You watch a wave. Crest, 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 crest. Fall, 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 fall. Boom. Recede. It's not. There's a bunch of steps in there. And we're not taking the time because we think if we do shortcuts, we'll get there faster. Yeah, you will, but you'll forget your car keys and you have to go back and get them. So the job today, just try this. The job today is just try one less thing. Take one thing off the list. Look at all the things and circle the one that you can do later. Put a heart beside it. I'm going to do this. You know, I had an amazing Friday. I went and had a massage, first massage in almost 2 years. That's too long, by the way. They always say, you know, you're going to need to rest after this. And you always say, oh, yes. Oh, of course. Well, of course. Right. And then you kind of don't. I mean, you do, but you kind of don't because you think, you know what? I'm just going to do these 7 things and then I'll rest. So I woke up Saturday and I said, you're a special kind of stupid, happy Hector. And I had stuff to do that really mattered. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm only going to do a couple of them because if I try to do all of them, I'm not going to do them well. I'm going to do them. Bleh. So I did. I cut back. And I spent a lot of the day in my pajamas. I said, you know, I could get up and get dressed and face the front and head downstairs and say hello to people, or I could just stay in my pajamas. And maybe I've earned that because of yesterday. And then Sunday was an emotional day because it was a celebration and anniversary of things lost. And Friday was a celebration of things lost and found and rediscovered. And so there's a lot of processing that we do when we find ourselves in a moment like that. The conversation yesterday with my very, very lovely friend, and then my client conversation last night, it was a continuing waves of discovery of really interesting understandings of things. You know, in this case, less is more, and in that case, more is less. And it was eye-opening. And if I hadn't rested before that, if I hadn't given myself permission to just be quiet on Sunday and just be present for the things that I was part of, thinking about, celebrating, remembering, I wouldn't have had the ability to really appreciate, to really learn, to really open my eyes yesterday, to have discovery conversations that were really important, really important. You know, if you've been watching these videos, you know that I've been working on this process, on this concept, to explain to people how we can reorganize, recognize, assess, reorganize, and address. And part of the learning curve in this requires that we're present, requires that we are fed up enough, done enough with what was, to be able to, willing to, ready to focus on what we can and will in order to change what we were getting. It's a big commitment on a lot of levels. You know, our energy has to be there, our feelings, our emotions have to be there, our heads have to be in the right place. We have to be hungry, we have to be ready, we have to be excited, we have to be curious. We have to get ourselves out of the, I wonder if the fridge fairy came, because we're the fridge fairy. uh, uh, we have to take ownership, and that can be exhausting. And then I had a conversation with a really really cool buddy of mine who insists on doing everything. And I said, there's another way to do that. Yeah, I know. I'm just, I'm kind of on a roll. If we're not able to say, I need a minute. I need a minute to regroup here. I need a minute to lie face down on the kitchen floor and say, oh, thank you. I need a minute. If we're not going to do that, we're going to run out of minutes. We're going to run out of the energy it requires to have more minutes. So what is so important is another thing I read, and it was so profound. It was so gobsmackingly what that I had to keep replaying, and finally I froze the thing and I printed it, so I had it. So this is what I read. Ready? Okay, here we go. What if we made a deal before we were capable of being aware of it? So at birth, what if some part of us made a deal? And the deal was this: if you keep me safe, I will behave in the way that I think you want me to behave. What if we made that contract? If you keep me safe, I will behave in the way that I think you want me to behave. A psychiatrist, psychologist who was talking about it said it is the original betrayal of ourselves. It is the original act of betrayal, primordial betrayal. The original, I looked at primordial, I said, what on earth is that? Looked it up. Our original act of betrayal that we may have carried with us, that we're not sure, we don't know that this is what you want, but we believe it is what you want. So based on believing what you want, we compromise everything about ourselves to keep us safe. What if that was a contract? What if that has been running on an invisible silent loop underneath, back behind everything, every waking, sleeping minute of our lives, nonstop? It would explain a lot of anger. It would explain a lot of sadness. It would explain a lot of giving away and not policing our boundaries. If we felt that, why bother? What if that's why so many of us are living in that emotional state? Not really finding joy when we look at ourselves in the mirror, because we somehow deep, deep, deep down feel that we can't trust ourselves to look after us. What if that were true? If that were true, and we suddenly hear it, see it, feel it, sense it now, then that would explain the exhaustion. It would explain the just turning off, shutting down. Because we would be saying, what's the point? Where's the value? What if we then said, okay, so then let's, yes, compromising ourselves. Yes, that's it, Eddie. What if there is some part of us that thinks that we did that once to ourselves long ago? And we can never entirely trust ourselves again, much less like ourselves. What if this, in some of us, in all of us to a certain degree, what if that were just somewhere in there? Let's, for the sake of this moment, this conversation today, because we are looking for the reason why we are exhausted, why we have shut down, why mom is lying face up on a wrestling mat floor like that. What if we say, I made a mistake? How is that working for me? It's not. I made a mistake. Okay. Well, here's a plan. Let's not do it again. What if the just try this today? What if the just try this today is stop that? How, Abby? How do you stop that? Well, you get out your later folder and you write down, I no longer do this. I no longer think this. I no longer buy into this. I no longer buy into compromise me to serve. How about that? How about that simple sentence? Present tense. And stare at it and say, yeah, that's right. As of today, I no longer do that. Did I do it? I don't know. If I did, I no longer do it now. What if that is the just try this? And if it is your bridge too far, well, if you're already on the bridge too far, in this case, I may be throwing you a lifeline. If you're too exhausted to catch it, remember where it fell. Just make a note of where it fell. You can go get it later. What if when we say to somebody, hey, I have to tell you, and you don't immediately see it, but some part of you registers that something is off about them? Maybe don't stop talking for a second. Breathe, just, and look at them. Look in their eyes. Just look in their eyes. See if they're home. Look in their eyes and say, are you home? Everything all right? What? Oh yeah. Okay, that's no. Translation. What? I'm sorry, what? No. No, you're not. Here, hug. Okay? Don't then say, what can I do to help? Because they don't know. They're exhausted. Just do the thing. They're struggling with their keys. Take the keys. Open. Am I opening or closing? What? I don't know. Opening. Okay. Everybody gets that tired. Everybody needs a hug of some kind. Everybody needs somebody to say, sit down, let me do this. Everybody, we all do. Just try this. Even if it's your bridge too far. Even if the next person you talk to, look at them in the eyes. Look at them. And if the person says, what are you doing? I just want to make sure you're in there. Even if you're exhausted, just the act of wanting to make sure that they're in there can give you a bit of a boost. And if you are too tired, then it's a pajama day. Well, I can't. I wish I could afford a pajama day, but I can't. I this, I that. Okay. Here's the thing. If a hurricane hit your building, you're not going to be doing the 6 things you say you have to do. And if the manager at work says, well, you can't just blah, 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 hang up. I know you don't have the energy at this point to say you're not the boss of me, but hanging up basically says, what if they fire me? Okay. What if they fire you? Well, I won't be able to. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. When you're too tired, there are no fixes that you can take to the next level. When you're too tired, the fix is to keep you safe at this level, to hug this human you're in charge of and say, pajama day. Get up, I get up, punch the button on the coffee because I got the coffee ready to be punched the night before. Get up, punch the coffee, go back, sit down and think, you know what? I'm not ready. Oof. The coffee makes its little noise. I think, am I ready to even drink that? Yes, then I get up. I make the coffee, I bring it back to bed. If I say, am I ready to drink it? No, then don't. You know what? I'll make another set. Everything that we are placing on our list of things that we are calling priorities are man-made and or Viking made. We made them. I was allowing myself to wind up a little bit last week because I had this list of things. And I heard myself say, well, I have to do this and I have to do this. Because I was trying to figure out what to take off the list. Well, I have to do this. And then I thought, who says so? Who when I woke up this morning, there was no list. I'm the one who made the list. So if I wrote it down, I can put a circle and a heart around it and do it later. Does it have to be right this minute? Well, no, but okay. So if there is a way, and I'll wrap this up, if there is a way for us to remember that door number 3 is in the middle and it's a shorter distance from door number 1 to door number 3, and door number 3 is option 3, as opposed to it must be this or it must be that. If door number 3 is some other plan, we're allowed to follow that. We're allowed to regroup. We're allowed to try something different. I had a lovely, lovely lunch yesterday, and I realized about halfway through it that I'd eaten all the parts of it that I wanted. And the rest of it I didn't want for any number of reasons. And when the waiter said, shall I box that up? And I said, no, thank you. He said, really? Yeah. And I didn't wait for him to go. And then I told my friend, I almost said, listen, if I don't want it now, why am I going to want it later when it's cold? Because he said, well, you can reheat it. Yeah, but I don't. I no longer love it. It was a fling. We're allowed to do that. Well, I don't want to waste food. Okay, but are you going to eat it or are you going to wait and watch it turn green and then walk out of the fridge on its own at some point when you're not looking? If you don't like it, what's wrong with you? Why do we set those impossible tasks for us? It's just ludicrous. Well, my dad always used to say, okay. Everywhere we go, there we are. I got to get away from just everything. Okay, but you can't. I know. I just need what? I don't know. Okay, but if you go over there and you haven't resolved this, you're taking it with you. So you don't understand. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Original procrastinator here. Original bait and switch. I'll do that over here later, and then I won't. So first of all, everywhere we go, there we are. Second, we are not perfect. If you have watched any of my videos, if you have seen any of the work that I've ever done, you know, as a representative of the human species, we are not perfect. We can get all bent out of shape about our imperfections, or we can say, okay, so that's really unfortunate. Let's try not to do that as many times as possible. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to try to do things that we realize were not a good choice. Is there any value in consistently and continuously beating ourselves up for making that first well-intentioned decision? No, there's no value in it. It's a stalling tactic. It keeps us in a spot that prevents us from moving forward. You're too tired to move forward, then you're too tired to beat yourself up. Be nice to you. You are here to look after this little human of yours. All the others come and go. We are the one that we're looking after. Just try this. Is it your bridge too far? Or is it the flag that says we already had the bridge too far? I told you and you weren't listening. In which case, this is not the thing to blame. It is our momentum. It is our good intention. We can do better. Every time we try, every time we revisit, we do better. We always do. So keep that thought with you, no matter how tired you are, no matter how big it seems. You're amazing. And on an off day, you get to rest. You get to breathe. You get to lie back and say, we'll try again tomorrow. You get to do that. Because otherwise, if we don't give ourselves this opportunity, we end up with that other door where nobody's home and nobody's here. You know what the most common thing is that people say to me when they meet me and they realize that I was mom and you can't do that on television, or I was the Care Bear? Do you know what the most common thing is that they say to me? I loved that show. I loved you on that show because you were always there for me. It felt like you were there for me. It's a bleak thing to realize that that's how they felt their life was. But it's a wonderful thing to realize that we were part of a solution. We were part of a reason they're still here. And they're still excited to see somebody who was part of their maintenance and recovery and self-care. So self-care starts with us, for us. Don't just try this. Smile at the prospect. When you have the energy, let me know. Okay? Busy-ish day to day, and tomorrow I'm back Thursday with something else pretty cool to talk about. I think you're going to like a lot. And I want to thank you for the incredible numbers of you who are obviously telling your friends, because the numbers of people who are watching in real time and then in follow-up hours, it is so, oh boy, it is such a feeling of belonging to something that is growing. It's such a vote of confidence. And I appreciate every single time you say, you know what, I'm going to take this moment and sit with Abby and go through this with her. It means everything. And I mean it. I mean it. Okay. So with that said, be good to you. You deserve it. Be good to that little human of yours. And remember to hug your loved ones, because they deserve it too, don't they? And I'll see you in a couple of days.